So if you think I'm speaking too fast, you can stop me, you can ask me questions. But I would prefer that the questions come at the end of the presentation, so that we go through the entire motion. Now, a few questions before I introduce the presentation and myself. How many of you do you already have a startup right now? Working on it, or having it? Don't be shy, and very up in the sky, guys, because that's where you're gonna get. Okay? All right. How many of you are thinking about having a startup? All right. And of these guys who want us to have a startup or already have a startup, how many of you need money, more money? Everyone? Only a few? Everyone. Okay. So this is the right place. Okay. Now, my name is Dragos. Gavrilescu, as Stefan introduced me. I have about 15 years of experience in running market research, business, social business as well as business, pure for-profit business as well as non-profit business. And for the past 2 years and a half, I've been doing a lot of business consulting. Not so much in Romania, more outside of the country. In Romania, I'm working more pro bono and with startups, so that's why I end up being part of this group and of this community, which I very much enjoy. Some faces I see a lot. The presentation of today obviously is going to be on cash flow and fundraising, as Stefan introduced it. I called it Tales and Fails of Fundraising. As you all know, a lot of the lean startup experience is about failing. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's failing fast and cheap, as we say in English, or as they say, with the ones who invented this methodology. Right? We're still learning it. So I will tell you about one experience that I had over almost a year of failing to fundraise. Actually, it was a fail as well as not necessarily a fail. But I learned a lot, and in retrospect, after I started reading about lean startup, I realized why things didn't go as we wanted to go. So the presentation is basically a combination of my experience with a theoretical background of lean startup. So I will basically try to mix the two. I also have a little bit of a project on my own. It's called Spin Studio, because I believe this is like a consulting business, just a small business. Because it's called Spin Studio, Design Business Great, because I believe any business can be created great and designed like that from the beginning. Now, the fundraising looks a lot like this background here. It has many colors and many going in and going out, and it's all types of things. Now, in Romania, the fundraising or the funding environment is not necessarily well established. So you will hear from my experience different ways of approaching it. Now let's see if this works. Maybe I should go on this other side. Okay. Now, when you start fundraising, basically you have either an idea or a business or a startup, and you want more money, right? Now, the first thing that I believe is necessary when you start a fundraising process is to know something that starts with pro. What do you think that word is that starts with pro?
Professional.
Professional. What else?
Product.
Product.
Project.
Product,
Process.
professional. Process.
Problem.
So you get a candy there. So you actually you need to know the problem. When we talk about problem, and I'll give you the example from my experience, we talk not about the problem of the market, but the problem of a customer. Customer meaning someone who is going to pay for your services or products. Now, in my experience, the project that I was involved with was a game designer, someone who had an idea of a game for mobile devices. This was a person who had worked in one of the big game studios in Bucharest. He was a game architect. He was basically at the top of the pyramid of game design in this country, among the few ones. So he basically knew pretty well the game or the game development world. And he was a friend of mine. We had worked before together, and he asked me if I wanted to be part of his project. He called me and asked, "Look, I have my own project, my new idea of a new game. He at that moment in time had already started to work on it. Actually, had invested already quite a lot of time and effort. He had a small team as well that was working on this. So this was a real startup in all ways you can imagine a startup being. They had a space. There were two co-founders. They had a space. They were working there. There were people who were working for them. And they were paying for their salaries and all of that stuff. But he needed more money, obviously. A point in time came when he said, well, if we run at this pace in 3 months or so, 4 months or so, we're going to run out of money. So can you help me fundraise? Because, you know, business, I don't know so much business, so maybe you can help me fundraise. So my role with him was to assist, consult, whatever you guys want to call it, with him to find investors for his startup. And at that point in time, I had no idea about the tech world, the funding in the tech world, about angel investors. I obviously known about angel investors, but didn't know necessarily people or, you know. So I said, well, let's try it. You know, I don't know what's going to come out of it because I don't necessarily have the experience, but if you think you want me to help you, then I'll help you. And basically the deal was that if we got funding, I would get a share of the funding or some equity. There was some deal there. It's not so important. So if I want to go back, going back to this slide, the first issue that I felt we had was that we could not necessarily articulate very well what we were really trying to propose. Okay, so and moreover, because I was not I wasn't a gamer. I wasn't playing hardcore games. So this is the slide from our presentation to investors that is presenting the proposition of Pixeldom. That's the name of the project. That was the name of the project. And it basically says that we are going to bring player versus player strategy games to mobile. Those of you who, how many of you play hardcore games like, you know, World of Warcraft and stuff like that? Very, very few of you. Yeah. Now you can relate to my the other ones. You can relate to my Puzzleman. You know, Puzzleman. When I was looking at this, like, okay, so what are we really trying to do here? You know, and as he was trying to explain to me, he was saying, look, these PvP games, that's how we call them, strategy games, are very popular on PCs, on computers, right? But the mobile devices, they fail to offer the same experience to players. So our vision is to try to bring that experience to mobile devices. Now, when you read that, basically you understand that there is a problem there, but it's not necessarily a customer problem. It's defined more as a market problem, a market that's not out there. But we didn't know if that need of those hardcore gamers was to play on mobile devices. Okay? I'm not sure if that makes a lot of sense now, but basically even for me it was very difficult to explain to others what this was about. And we didn't know if these guys were playing these games here, League of Legends, StarCraft, Dota 2, Hearthstone. Those are some examples of games that are on PCs that he wanted to bring that experience to mobile devices. We didn't know if the players of these games actually wanted that experience on mobile devices, or they were just happy with their computer games, with their PC games at home. So basically our problem was not very well defined, and it was very difficult to explain it to investors. That's the first lesson. If you cannot articulate your problem, and the problem, I mean the problem of a customer, in our case, the customer would have been the hardcore gamers of strategy PvP games, and they want, specifically, they want the same experience on mobile devices. But we had no idea. That was just an assumption, a hypothesis. And in the lean startup world and methodology, once you start working on such a thing, you first have to test that hypothesis. Not having the hypothesis tested and validated makes you look funny in the face of an investor. Because the investor wants to see that you actually understand that there is a market. And we had no idea, really. It was just a big assumption. And there's many other things in there, but that was the big lesson learned from there. Now, I had, before I present this, let me go back to the beginning of my career. I started as working in market research, and I had the owner of the company was an Irish guy. I have 10 minutes more? Okay, so I have to rush. So the Irish guy who's running the company now is an investor in Ireland. So I called him and I said, look, Barry, are you available to look at this presentation? Can I send you, actually I sent him an email. Can you look at this presentation and then talk to me? So I sent him the presentation, and the first and only thing basically that he told me on the phone, on Skype, was that, Dragos, you guys have to bring the product to the market, the MVP, the minimum viable product, to the market at any cost. And any cost here doesn't mean at any expense, basically, not very expensive, but at any cost of equity, meaning that if you have an investor, the investor would ask in return for his money, he would ask for an equity, a share, a part of your company. He said, don't worry, if you give 80% or 90% of your company, give it, but just make sure you get to the market. Once you get to the market, if you're going to be validated by the market, then even the 1% you're going to have from that company at the end of the day is still going to be counted as a big success, because you would have an exit. And in the world of investors, once you have an exit, you have proven yourself as a big guy, as a business, as a startup. So his point was, bring your MVP to the market at any cost. What is the minimum viable product? That's sort of a illustration there. This is minimum weak product is sort of your idea in your head, your assumptions, the things that you think will work. Once you validate those, and you put them in the market in the form of could be a game, could be a mobile application, could be a shop, anything, doesn't necessarily need to be tech. Then you have a minimum viable product, a boat in which one customer is actually in there. He's sailing with you. And then once you're able to scale it up to make 100, to have 100 of them in a bigger boat, then you basically have your company, which you can sell. So that's the ultimate dream product. So the lessons learned for us, the main learning for us was that the problem we had was that my partner, Tudor, he said, no, I need this, he had this big idea of how the product needs to look shiny and great product, great, great game that works flawlessly, and that's not the minimum viable product. The minimum viable product is a little bit of an interaction that players can have between them and see if they play and if they enjoy it, and so on. So our problem was that we were here and Tudor wanted to jump directly there, and we were asking for money here. And that in itself, it's a big problem to begin with. Asking for money here is a problem because at this moment here, at this stage, your goal is to validate your business model. So your goal is to get here. It's not to scale up. An investor, when he puts forth the money, he wants this. He wants to take a small business into a big business, which will return a lot of money for him. Generally, investors, they do not want to fund ideas, because ideas need to be validated. That's what Lean Startup is about. Validating hypotheses, assumptions, and ideas. And this is where you start with hypotheses and assumptions, and you have to test them. You have to do that with your own money, more or less. Very rarely you could find someone who really would invest there. They call it friends, fools, and whatever. Family, friends, and fools, right? So you'd find a fool that would, besides friends and family, who would believe in you, right? You would find a fool to basically fund that. So rarely you would be able to find that. So the next slide, actually, or the next diagram is taken directly from one of the Lean startup books. It's called Running Lean by Ash Moria, and it shows that the perfect timing for investment to seek investment is here. Once you validate that the market is buying your product repeatedly and you get enough money to cover your cost. That's what it is. And you'd ask me, well, if I'm already there, why would I need an investor, right? Because I'm already returning money over cost, right? Well, usually, if you go back to this word, that's the key word in the success right now in business. They ran research, and timing is the most important factor of success right now. Discovered this, for our stage of, industry and of the world right now. Timing is everything. So once you've proven yourself, the return may not be as fast as you need it to really grow quickly, right? So you need someone to put in a lot of money so that you can, boom, go like this, overnight, from 10 employees to 150 in 2 months, not in 2 years. Because if you're doing it in 2 years, someone else will come, will take your business model, put $1 million, and boom, they go boom, and you go whoosh, boom on the other way. Right? So that's why you need an investor there, because the scale-up phase has to be very fast. That's when you need, well, actually you need speed all the time, but here it's a different speed. And luckily here it's where the objectives are the same. Your objective is to grow fast. The objective of the investor is to multiply the money fast. That's exactly the same objective. Here it's not the same objective. You try to learn and they try to make money, which is not the same thing. Now, the big question, I've been asked that. How do you find investors? Well, in my case, as we were trying to, what should I do? Well, the first thing you should do is to take your phone agenda, email a list, friends, family, fools, whatever, and you are in this network. And you will find people who would be interested in business, in funding business. Maybe they're not very close to you, but maybe they know someone that you know. Okay? So in my case, I found people on different let me give you examples. Now, how many of you do have accounts on all of these? You probably don't even know all of these. I can't tell you all of these, what they are. The social media landscape, right? You have a zillion applications out there with billions of people on them, right? And you probably don't have accounts on all of them. You may want to start have accounts on all of them if you want money, because that's a way to get to people in this networked environment that we are right now. There has been research done, and they proved, a sociologist in the US, I think in the 60s, he proved that basically anyone on this planet, it's only 6 degrees of separation between you and that person. So there's only 6 people between you and that person. Or he's the 6th one, something like that. There's 5 between you. So that means that if you really want to find someone, even Obama, you would find a way to get to him. Knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone, and so on and so forth. Right? And besides that, as I said, so basically knowing, talking to your people, to the people that you know, is a way to basically try to get someone to fund you or to give attention to you. There's also angel.co, which is it's a platform for angel investors and projects to present themselves. Believe it or not, there's more money out there in the world than the startups can actually eat, right? In Switzerland, if you want to put money in the bank, you lose money. Right? You cannot keep, you don't get interest. So people who have money, and there are people who have a lot of money in this world, they have nothing to do with it. They have to invest it. The problem is that people come with ideas and they don't come with some sort of a validated business model that they can invest in. But for that you have hubs, you have accelerators, you have incubators, you have foundries, you have all sorts of organizations, even communities like ours that may help you get to the point of having a validated business model. Pitch your idea to as many people as you can, because you'll get a lot of feedback, and that feedback is actually the same thing. You're improving your business. There's also European funds for us in Romania. I'm not going to talk about it right now because we don't have that much time, but if you're curious, go Horizon 2020, search for it, and for technology at least there is money there. Now how to sell. So basically you have an idea or a startup, you found some investors, right, some contacts, and then you need to go in front of them and do something. And the first thing you're thinking about, oh my God, what should I do to get money from this guy? Which is a selling. It's a selling. It's a selling proposition, basically. How many of you feel comfortable in selling? Raise your hand. Okay, I thought so. 80% are not, or 90%. 80% of people in this room are not comfortable selling. Because that's not necessarily human nature, and especially because people, when they are sold, they may push back. Okay? So, don't sell. What you can do, instead of selling, you can approach a potential investor or a friend or whoever, saying, look, I have an idea or a project that I'm working on. Would you have 15 minutes to give me your opinion on it? It's just the opinion that I'm looking for. I'm not selling anything, I'm not promoting anything to you. I just want to hear your opinion about it, especially since you have expertise, you've worked with investors, you have investors' friends, and so on and so forth. You know the investor world and what they want. I just want to present to you something, and you tell me what you think about it. That's what you do. You just ask for advice. You don't ask for money. If your project is really, really good, at the end of the day, he will say, this is an interesting idea. I may be interested. So you can imagine, at the end of a conversation, if you're selling, would you be interested? Or him saying, I may be interested. Who owns the territory then? It's going to be your territory. You're going to play the book then. You're going to make the rules. If you're going in and saying, would you be interested? First of all, he may not be interested at all. But if he's interested, then he already has an edge over you. Because he says, oh, let's think about it, let's see, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so basically you go there and you test your idea, and you even test your presentation. Your presentation, which is also called a deck, an investor deck, you can think about it as a product. So you are testing it just as you test your product, your business product, like your mobile application or whatever you're designing or doing. You can test your own presentation, and in time you can improve it. Actually, I think we had at least 10 versions, 10 iterations of our presentation. That slide that I showed you before, I think that slide had 5 or 6 or 7 versions before it came to that final version, which in itself it wasn't that good anyways, but we still went through several iterations. And the iteration, it's this process, which you will find in the Lean Startup book from the one from Publica Electris, Lean Startup. You basically have an idea, or you can have a presentation idea. You build the presentation, then you put it in front of the people, and then you measure the reaction. Usually the reaction is direct, qualitative, and you think about it, what it means, and that's the learning, and then you redo it. So basically this whole circle of iterating a business idea, or iterating you can even iterate your business presentation or your business deck, your investor deck. Okay. What do you think? What do you think in a conversation with an investor? Especially when you're asking for advice like that? What do you think is the most important skill that you should have?
Persuasion.
Persuasion.
Experience.
Asking questions. Maybe one.
Based on the investor, I think, because some investors look for the professional guy, and some look for the selling guy, and others look for the guy that, I don't know, basically they have some specific expectations. So basically, I think it's just studying who you're facing with.
I think you have passion and knowledge.
The energy, the passion, the energy.
Passion, energy.
Listening.
What about listening? Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about it. You go there to get advice, to get their opinions. So if you display listening skills, they will see first of all that they are taken for serious, right, in that discussion. They are taken seriously. So if you're listening well, you're going to get all the insights you need to build your next deck better than the one that you're doing right now, and even doing a better job at developing your business idea furthermore. I think I'm going to skip this because I have a couple minutes left. But basically, the deck, which is the presentation, if you haven't seen until now this table, it's called Lean Canvas. You can find it again in Running Lean by Ash Moria. And it basically puts your entire business in one sheet, your entire business concept, so to speak. You have to have the problem, as I said before, and the customer segments. The customer segments meaning the people who are going to pay to solve, pay you to solve their problem. And you need to understand what are their alternatives to solving that problem that they have that moment. I'm not going to go into this, but basically, your presentation has to have 9 slides. If you have 9 slides, each of these would be a slide. Okay? At the end of the day, you have the problem, the customer segments, the solution, what you're going to do, the product that you're going to build, which is only coming late. Yeah. How are you going to measure that you're doing a good job? Why are customers buying from you only and not others? And why are you the only one who can do that and no one else can do it? And then what is the balance between the revenue and the cost? Yeah. And proving the guy that you have already a few customers that are able to cover their cost. The cost of acquiring them is the first stage of attracting attention from an investor, and that's called traction. And we'll get to traction later on. So money given by an investor basically means I trust you that you're gonna do what you're saying, do what you're promising. Okay. Now trust, well, before trust, now who will you lend money to? If someone comes to you and says, give me, $1,000 as a, as a loan, but I'll pay it back in 1 month. Who will you give money?
Trustworthy.
Trustworthy, why? Why trustworthy? What's the trust about?
Someone with a history of paying loans back.
Sorry?
Someone with a history of paying loans back or liquidity.
Exactly. Someone who you think or trust or has the record of being able to pay back the money. Okay? Now, in the investor world, the trust is basically a combination of stake. Stake meaning I put in my own money to build this business. I came here, after a year of work in which I put all my time. I paid 3 guys, which is about, $40,000. And, I borrow money from friends and family and whatever. And that's my stake. That's what I put in this business. So I really believe in it. I have a great team, and you should talk about your team. The problem that we had was that our team was not that strong. Team means someone who has either a proven track record of an exit, so another business that they've done before, or they have worked at a top management level in a very recognized company. And I'm not talking necessarily in Romania, but in Romania it may be fine. I mean, if you were a VP at Oracle in Romania, it may be good enough in Romania, or a VP at IBM or somewhere like that. If you're just a manager of department in Romania at IBM or Oracle or some other company, and my guy was not necessarily a VP or something like that. Okay, so we were actually quite weak here on the team thing. We had no traction. Traction meaning put the MVP in the market, get some customers to pay for it. pay for it, get money in, and proven that, you know, I acquired, 100 customers for $1,000, and now I'm returning 1,200. That's traction. And they don't leave, and so on. There's many other metrics there. So we were basically weak in this too. We had a little bit of stake there that he had invested, but it was not enough. And with all the shortcomings, with all the problems we had, you know, not understanding the market, not having the customers, not having track record, and so on and so forth, we still were able to lend two funding proposals. Basically, two investors who were interested in our proposition. One was a couple investors from Orada who had money, and they were proposing to give us $20,000 for about, I think it was 20% of the company, or even more. Tudor, my friend, thought, you know, my company values about $1 million. Although it was just an idea, a year of work, but nothing real on the market, he thought that would be $1 million. So if he got 20,000, he wanted to give only like 2% or something like that, which is peanuts, and the investors were not interested. So at the end of the day, one of the problems was that the valuation of the company was very different from what the investor was willing to actually value the company. The other investor was someone who had a lot of money, probably dirty money, and he was ready to put in $200,000. But my friend Tudor said, you know, if this guy is like Gigi Becali, right? If I'm starting to, if I get in business with this guy, going business with this guy is going to be a nightmare. He's going to want to put his own ideas into the game and so on and so forth. So he decided not to take that money, although that was a lot of money, and it would just give him what he needed. So basically, don't take any money that comes along. Try to find an investor that is supportive and knows the business. The other learning that we had is that we could not find someone who really knew the game design, the game development business in Romania. The game development is a very different type of industry than the usual software development. It's entertainment basically. Games are like movies. They are not like software. Okay, so there's many other things related to that, but basically you need to find investors from your industry that you are, you are operating in. Okay, if you are in software development, okay, go to Radu Georgescu. If you are in game development and you go to Radu Georgescu, you may not really understand the business. How long does it really take? This is my last slide. How long does it really take? For us, it took a year. And the project at the end, basically, as I told you, we had two options. We basically turned down both of them, and the project ended. So it may take between 6 months to 18 months, whatever. In the same time, you should be able to. So you could start with an idea. You could go to investors with an idea and start polishing your presentation. But ideally, you need to get to that traction point. And once you get to that traction point, then you will be able to maybe have investors wanting you, rather than you wanting investors. That's the ideal scenario. So I don't know, is that what you guys wanted to hear or not? So that's it, that's my presentation. About my experience maybe, or about anything?
So from your experience, what's the step in Romania? Because normally if you are to go for some fundraising,
yeah.
Normally what should you do? So what would be the first thing that you will look after? So we saw that logo, so basically be present on all the social part, yeah, and try to have your product there, present it and speak it. But where would you go actually? So let's say the first...
Your immediate connections.
Exactly.
That's how you start. That's how I started. We started with my personal connections. I also looked on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a great source. We knew someone that was present on angel.co, but we knew him from some other businesses he was doing in Romania. His girlfriend basically was Romanian, but he's living in New York. So we found him on angel.co and we sent him an email. Do not underestimate the power of emails. Investors want to place their money. Remember, there is a lot of money out there. If you have a great idea or a great startup already working, an email may be enough. Okay, so don't be shy when you're doing emails. We sent an email to Radu Georgescu and we got a meeting in 2 weeks after we sent the email. Someone introduced us, but again, I mean, you have to find the connections to introduce you. I sent an email to my guy in Ireland. He responded, no problem. We sent an email to someone in Luxembourg. We never got back any reply. So it's give and take.
Yeah, but if you are contacting outside, are not them how to say reluctant to invest in something that they don't know the market, the country respectively. So
yes, there is. Basically, if you look at Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley money doesn't necessarily come to Europe.
Yeah.
There is a disconnect between US and Europe. They do not want to invest in Europe, they do not understand how business is done in Europe, the legal structures are different, and so on and so forth. So Silicon Valley money would not come to Romania unless you have a very strong business or very strong connection or someone in Silicon Valley working with you. So my suggestion is to try to find investors in Europe that understand Europe, understand the legal entities and so on.